It was an ordinary day on Earth when the sky changed. At first, no one noticed anything unusual. The sun shone brightly over the cities, and people were going about their daily routines. But then, something in the sky caught everyone's attention. Bright lights appeared, far above the clouds. They weren't stars or aircraft. No, this was different. It was the arrival of the Empire. For weeks, strange ships had appeared in the sky. People thought it was some sort of space tourism or a scientific mission. But when the ships began to line up across Earth's orbit, humanity knew something was wrong. These ships were massive, far bigger than anything humanity had ever built. Their sleek metal surfaces shimmered in the sunlight as they hovered above the world. Soon after, the ships sent out a signal. It was an announcement, a demand that was broadcast to every radio, TV station, and even cell phones. The message was clear. This is the Galactic Empire. Your world is now under our control. We demand your immediate and unconditional surrender. Fail to comply, and you will suffer the consequences. The message was calm, yet there was something chilling about it. The voice didn't seem angry or threatening. It was simply matter of fact. It was the voice of someone who knew they had power, and they wanted Earth to know it too. Governments around the world scrambled to respond. World leaders met in emergency sessions, gathering in the largest cities and bunkers. Military commanders prepared for what seemed like the beginning of the end. Everyone expected Earth to be helpless against such advanced forces. After all, what could humanity do against beings who claimed control of entire galaxies? In the United Nations headquarters, a diverse group of diplomats, military strategists, and scientists sat together. For a moment, there was silence. No one knew what to say. They had never faced a threat like this before. But then, a voice broke the silence. It was David Moore, an experienced diplomat, known for his calm in the most stressful situations. He stood up, looking at the screen where the image of the alien fleet hovered above Earth. "We cannot submit. Not to this." His words were firm. "We need to show them that Earth will not kneel." The room buzzed with agreement. People had begun to feel something rise inside them, something they hadn't expected: defiance. The Empire might be powerful, but humanity had something that could not be measured in weapons or ships. They had heart. "This is our home," Moore continued, "and we will fight for it. Not with weapons at first. We will start with our minds. We will show them that Earth is not a world to be ruled, but a world that stands for something greater. We can defeat them, but we must be clever. We have no choice but to resist." The people in the room nodded. They had no military might that could match the Empire's fleet, but they had something far more valuable: intelligence, resourcefulness, and an unyielding will to protect their world. A plan began to form. First, they would not act in haste. They would not fire weapons or attack blindly. The Empire had only sent a few ships as a warning. The leaders decided to send a message back. They would use diplomacy to buy time to gather information and prepare a strategy. A team of Earth's best scientists, engineers, and diplomats would respond to the Empire's command. They would make contact, not to surrender, but to communicate. Humanity would show that it was not a weak, frightened species ready to be crushed. Instead, they would ask questions, find weaknesses, and make it clear that Earth would not bend easily. The Empire expected submission. What they didn't expect was Earth's resilience. Later that day, Earth's message went out, a response delivered directly to the fleet. The voice on the other end was calm, but it carried with it an undeniable tone of defiance. "We hear your demands, but Earth does not surrender. We do not bow to any power, no matter how great. We will negotiate, and we will stand for our rights. If you want Earth, you'll have to take it, but we will not make it easy for you." The message was simple. The response was clear. Earth would not bow to the Empire. As the Empire's ships loomed above, waiting for a reaction, the people of Earth felt something they had not felt in a long time: hope. They had taken the first step, and they had made their stand. They had not given up, and they were not going to. The fight for Earth had just begun. After Earth's defiant message was sent to the Empire, an uneasy silence followed. The world waited anxiously for a response. Would the Empire come down with full force? Would humanity face a terrifying retaliation? But instead of an immediate attack, there was only the continued presence of the Empire's massive fleet hovering above Earth. Their ships didn't move, not yet, but the tension was undeniable. In the United Nations headquarters, the leaders of Earth gathered once more. They had chosen not to back down. Instead, they would use their intelligence and creativity to survive. The Empire may have power, but humanity had something the Empire had never experienced: unpredictability. The first thing they knew was that they needed time. Time to plan, time to organize, and time to act. The leaders agreed that if Earth was to stand a chance, they had to outsmart the Empire. Brute force was not an option. Instead, they needed to focus on what made humanity unique: its ability to innovate. The team set to work immediately. The world's brightest scientists and engineers were called upon. Together, they began to analyze everything they could about the Empire's fleet. What did they know about these ships? How did they work? What were their weaknesses? One of the first breakthroughs came when a small group of engineers in Japan discovered something surprising. The Empire's ships, despite being enormous and technologically advanced, still relied on old communication technology. The ships used a specific frequency for transmitting commands and receiving information. It was a small weakness, but it was enough. If humanity could somehow disrupt or scramble these signals, they might have a chance to slow down the Empire's operations. Meanwhile, in Europe, a team of biologists and chemists began studying the Empire's soldiers and equipment. They had no direct way of studying the aliens in person, but they had a wealth of data from the initial messages and footage of the ships. Their mission was to look for any possible biological or technological vulnerabilities. Back in the United States, military strategists were already preparing defense systems. They knew they couldn't match the Empire's firepower, but they could create weapons that were designed to surprise them. They worked on developing drones, repurposing old satellites into weapons, and using Earth's natural resources to create defensive measures that could confuse the Empire's high-tech instruments. While all of this was happening, the people of Earth remained unaware of the full scope of the work being done behind the scenes. The leaders wanted to avoid panic, so they told the public that everything was under control. People were encouraged to continue their daily lives, but with a sense of readiness, just in case the situation escalated. The diplomatic team continued to send messages to the Empire, but the tone shifted. Instead of simply rejecting the Empire's demands, Earth began offering alternatives. They suggested trade agreements, peaceful coexistence, and even technological exchanges. These messages were not meant to be taken as signs of weakness. They were part of a greater strategy to buy time and open channels for communication. While the diplomats worked on these messages, the engineers and scientists were racing against time. They had to prepare everything before the Empire decided to take action. It was a tense few weeks, filled with late nights and urgent meetings. But slowly, humanity's strategy began to take shape. The first major test of their plan came when the Empire attempted to communicate directly with Earth's leaders once more. This time, however, things were different. When the Empire sent out their signal, they received an unexpected response. The communication systems they had relied on for centuries were now under attack. The frequency they used was scrambled by a system developed by Earth's engineers. The Empire was unable to make contact with their fleet for several hours. It was a small victory, but a significant one. While the Empire scrambled to fix the problem, Earth's engineers worked even harder. They developed new software that would allow Earth to block the Empire's communications entirely. This, however, would only be a temporary solution. The real goal was to find a way to disrupt the Empire's fleet, something that would delay any attack and give humanity more time to build their defenses. As the weeks passed, more pieces of the plan fell into place. Earth's military began training civilians to use drones and basic weaponry. The idea wasn't to prepare for an all-out war, but rather to create a network of resistance fighters who could act if the Empire's forces did land on Earth. Every person had a role to play, whether it was in defense, science, or communication. But the most surprising part of humanity's strategy came from a group of historians and philosophers. They began to research the history of empires, both on Earth and in other parts of the galaxy. They studied how great empires had fallen in the past. They discovered a simple truth. Empires often relied too much on their sense of superiority and could be overthrown if they underestimated the will of the people. Humanity wasn't going to just resist. They were going to make the empire understand that Earth was not a world to be conquered. It was a world of people who valued freedom, innovation, and the right to stand tall in the face of overwhelming odds. The Empire had made a mistake in thinking that Earth would be an easy target. They had underestimated humanity. And soon, the Empire would realize just how wrong they were. After weeks of preparation, the Empire finally made its move. The fleet, which had been hovering above Earth in silence, began to move. Their massive ships descended slowly, as if they were waiting for Earth to show its fear. The people of Earth were ready. They knew that the time had come to prove that their defiance was not a fleeting moment. It was a promise to themselves and to their world. In the United Nations headquarters, leaders from all over the globe gathered once again. The mood was tense but focused. They had spent weeks developing new strategies, gathering information, and preparing the planet's defenses. The moment had arrived, and Earth had to show the Empire that it would not surrender without a fight. The Empire's fleet, led by a colossal flagship, moved toward Earth. The ships appeared like dark shadows in the sky, blocking out the sun. Their size was overwhelming, and the power they displayed made it clear that Earth's chances seemed slim. But humanity had something the Empire didn't expect: a brilliant strategy that had been secretly put into motion. In the control centers around the world, engineers, scientists, and military personnel worked together. They had created a network of defense systems designed to confuse and disrupt the Empire's fleet. The main strategy was to use Earth's satellites, which were older but still functional, to create a series of unexpected obstacles for the Empire's ships. The goal was not to destroy the fleet outright, but to slow them down and buy time for the next phase of Earth's plan. When the Empire's fleet reached the edge of Earth's atmosphere, the first signal was sent. The fleet began to fire warning shots. The blasts were designed to strike fear into the hearts of humanity, a way to show just how powerless Earth was. But as the blasts rang out, something unexpected happened. The Empire's communication systems began to falter. Earth's engineers had hacked into their frequencies once again, scrambling the signals. The Empire's ships couldn't coordinate with each other. The people watching from Earth's surface didn't know what was happening in space, but they felt the shift. It was as if the Empire's fleet had suddenly lost its direction. The Empire's commanders on the flagship issued orders, but the ships couldn't respond in time. That was when the drones came. The drones, which had been carefully prepared and deployed over the past weeks, took flight from Earth's surface. They weren't large or powerful, but they were fast and unpredictable. The Empire's ships, with all their advanced technology, didn't know how to deal with these small, agile targets. The drones flew in erratic patterns, dodging the Empire's attempts to shoot them down. At first, it was nothing more than a distraction. The Empire's fleet tried to swat the drones away like flies, but it was clear that Earth had planned for this moment. The drones had been designed to create confusion and cause as much disruption as possible. They weren't a true weapon in themselves, but they were a symbol of Earth's resilience. They showed the Empire that Earth was not going to go down quietly. As the drones continued to harass the fleet, Earth's defense systems kicked in. Old satellites, some of which had been launched decades earlier, began to activate. They were equipped with rudimentary weapons, nothing compared to the Empire's advanced technology, but enough to cause damage. A series of lasers shot toward the Empire's ships, targeting their communication relays and energy sources. The Empire's ships, unprepared for such an attack, scrambled to adjust, but it was too late. The damage was done. The flagship, the heart of the Empire's fleet, took the brunt of the damage. Its massive shields flickered as the lasers struck, and its control systems became erratic. The crew on board struggled to regain control, but it was clear that Earth's unorthodox strategy was working. For the first time, the Empire's superior technology was faltering. On the ground, people watched the sky anxiously. They didn't know the details of the battle happening above, but they knew something important was happening. News broadcasts showed images of the fleet in disarray, the Empire's ships retreating and trying to regroup. It was a small victory, but it was a victory nonetheless. The Empire, stunned by the unexpected resistance, issued a new warning. This time, the message was filled with anger. You dare defy the Empire. You will regret this insolence. But humanity wasn't intimidated. Earth had shown that it could fight back, not with overwhelming force, but with creativity and resolve. The message was clear. Earth would not be an easy target. Behind the scenes, the leaders of Earth knew that this was only the beginning. The Empire would return, and they would bring even greater forces. But for now, they had made their point. The first engagement had shown the galaxy that Earth was not a world to be ignored. It was a world that would fight for its freedom. And with that, the fight for Earth had truly begun. After Earth's unexpected victory, there was a brief moment of hope. The people of the planet stood proud, knowing they had made the Empire stumble. But deep down, everyone knew that this was just the beginning. The Empire was not going to give up easily. They had only shown a fraction of their power. The real test was yet to come. The Empire's fleet withdrew for a while, but not for long. Behind the scenes, the leaders of the Empire were furious. They had underestimated Earth, thinking that it would simply bow down to their might. Now they were preparing to strike back with even greater force. The people of Earth watched the sky nervously, waiting for the next move. As days passed, the calm seemed unnerving. The ships in orbit were still there, but they remained silent, watching from above. It was as if the Empire was waiting for the perfect moment to unleash its full power. Back in Earth's command centers, the leaders and scientists worked around the clock. They knew that the Empire would retaliate soon, and they had to be ready. Their first victory had been a small one, but it was important. It had shown that Earth wasn't a planet to be conquered without a fight. Now they needed to prepare for a much stronger counterattack. The military teams began to develop new defense systems, while scientists continued to work on improving the technology that had helped Earth defend itself. The drones that had distracted the Empire's fleet were upgraded, and more satellites were brought online. The plan was to build a network of defense mechanisms that could act as a shield against the Empire's next strike. But as the days passed, Earth's leaders realized something crucial. They could not rely solely on technology and defense. Earth had to strike first. They couldn't wait for the Empire to come down with full force. If they did, it might be too late. In the midst of all this, there was a shift in the way the people of Earth viewed the conflict. At first, there had been fear of the unknown, fear of the Empire's overwhelming power. But as Earth continued to resist, something changed. People no longer saw themselves as helpless victims. They were united, fighting for their freedom and the future of their planet. One evening, a message from the Empire appeared on every screen in the world. This time, it was not just a demand. It was a declaration of war. Your resistance is futile. The Empire will crush you. Prepare to face the consequences of your insolence. The message was chilling, but it only fueled humanity's resolve. The Empire had made it clear that they would not tolerate any defiance. But instead of backing down, Earth's leaders began to prepare for the worst. They knew that the Empire's forces were vast and powerful, but they also knew that Earth was not a world to be conquered so easily. The final moments before the Empire's full assault were tense. Earth's military was put on high alert, and the world's population was told to stay prepared. People across the globe were ready to stand together, no matter what happened next. Then, without warning, the Empire launched its next move. The fleet, which had been waiting in silence, descended from the sky with terrifying speed. The massive ships filled the atmosphere, blocking out the sun. It was clear that the Empire was not going to waste any more time. The first wave of the attack was overwhelming. The Empire's ships unleashed powerful beams of energy that tore through Earth's defenses. Buildings shook, and the ground trembled as the first blasts hit the planet's surface. The people of Earth felt a moment of fear, but it didn't last long. They had known this was coming. In response, Earth's defense systems were activated. Satellites fired back, launching laser beams at the Empire's ships. The drones, which had been upgraded with better weapons, zoomed through the air, attempting to strike the Empire's fleet. It was a valiant effort, but the Empire's technology was far superior. Earth's forces were able to slow them down, but the full force of the attack was still coming. On the ground, chaos erupted. People ran to shelters as the sky was filled with explosions. Governments around the world communicated, trying to keep order in the midst of the attack. But even in the chaos, one thing became clear: Earth was not going to give up without a fight. In the United Nations headquarters, leaders from around the world gathered once more. Despite the overwhelming attack from the Empire, they remained calm. They knew that they had to keep pushing forward, that they couldn't let fear take control. They couldn't allow the Empire to break their spirit. We will fight. Not because we can win right now, but because we must, said David Moore, the diplomat who had once led the charge against the Empire's demands. This is our home, and we will not let it fall. With those words, the people of Earth found renewed strength. They didn't know what the future held, but they knew one thing. They were going to stand together and fight with everything they had. The battle was far from over, but for the first time, Earth had shown the Empire that it was not a world to be easily conquered. The Empire may have struck back with force, but humanity had only just begun to fight for their freedom. The Empire's full-scale assault on Earth had begun. Its fleet, vast and imposing, unleashed waves of destruction that rippled across the planet. The world had never known such a powerful enemy, and the people of Earth could feel the weight of their struggle. Cities burned, the sky darkened with the smoke of explosions, and the very ground trembled beneath their feet. Yet, despite the overwhelming power of the Empire, the people of Earth refused to give up. In the midst of the chaos, Earth's leaders gathered once more, their faces grim but determined. They knew that this might be the final battle, the last chance to protect their planet and their future. The Empire had shown no mercy, and now Earth had to find a way to fight back, even with the odds stacked so high against them. The first line of defense, Earth's satellites and drones, had already been overwhelmed by the Empire's might. The lasers and weapons Earth had developed were no match for the Empire's advanced technology. Earth's cities were already in ruins, and millions of lives had been lost in the Empire's relentless bombardment. But the spirit of humanity was not easily crushed. If anything, the destruction only fueled their determination to fight harder. As the Empire's fleet continued its assault, a new plan was put into action. It was a plan born out of desperation, but also out of hope. Earth's greatest scientists had been working on a final weapon, a weapon that could potentially turn the tide in humanity's favor. It was a risky idea, one that could either save them or end everything once and for all. The weapon was called the Pulse. It wasn't a traditional weapon like missiles or lasers. It was something entirely different. The Pulse was designed to emit a massive electromagnetic wave that could disrupt the Empire's advanced technology, disabling their weapons, ships, and communication systems all at once. It was the one weapon Earth had that could level the playing field. The Pulse, however, had never been tested. Its power was unknown. It could destroy the Empire's fleet, but it could also destroy Earth's infrastructure in the process. The risk was immense, But the leaders of Earth knew that they had no other choice. If they didn't act now, the Empire would wipe out all of humanity. There would be no second chance. In a small underground facility, engineers and technicians worked feverishly to prepare the pulse for activation. The device was enormous, taking up an entire underground base. It had taken weeks to build, using the best of Earth's remaining resources. Time was running out, and they had to be ready. Earth's defense systems were already failing, and there was no guarantee that the pulse would even work. As the final moments approached, the leaders of Earth made the difficult decision to launch the weapon. There was no turning back. It was their last stand. The world held its breath as the countdown to activation began. Every person on Earth, whether they were in a shelter or still fighting on the front lines, knew that this was the moment that would determine their fate. The pulse was activated. At first, nothing happened. The world waited, tense and anxious. Then, in the skies above, the Empire's ships began to flicker. The lights on their massive vessels flickered and dimmed, as if their power was failing. The communication systems went quiet. The once dominant fleet, so sure of its superiority, was now scrambling to maintain control. The pulse had worked. The Empire's response was immediate. They fired their weapons at Earth with renewed fury. But the attacks were weaker now. The pulse had disrupted the Empire's technology, and their ability to coordinate their assault had been severely weakened. The fleets no longer moved with the same deadly precision, and their weapons no longer hit with the same force. Earth's military forces, which had been overwhelmed just moments before, now found new hope. The drones, once easily destroyed, now harassed the weakened ships. The few remaining defense systems that had not been fully disabled by the Empire's attacks activated once more. Earth's fighters, though outnumbered, now had a fighting chance. The people of Earth rallied together like never before. The cities that had been left in ruins now became battlegrounds for humanity's survival. Fighters from all over the world stood side by side, using whatever tools they had to fight back. They might have been outgunned and outnumbered, but their unity, their resilience, and their unwillingness to surrender gave them the strength to push forward. The Empire's commanders were furious. They had never expected this. They had thought Earth would fall easily, that they would break humanity's spirit with one swift strike. But they had underestimated Earth's will to survive. As the battle raged on, the Empire's fleet slowly began to retreat. The pulse had given Earth a fighting chance, and the people of Earth took full advantage of it. The Empire's technology was no longer as effective, and Earth's fighters were relentless in their pursuit of victory. But the war was far from over. The Empire was retreating, but they would not give up easily. The people of Earth knew that this victory was only temporary. The Empire would return, and they would come back stronger than before. But for now, Earth had taken a stand. And for the first time, the Empire knew that humanity was not to be underestimated. This battle was far from the end, but Earth had proven something crucial. It would never kneel. The war for Earth had reached a critical moment. The Empire's fleet, once overwhelming and unstoppable, was now showing signs of wear. Earth's resistance had grown stronger, more organized, and more determined. They had become a thorn in the Empire's side, and the invaders were beginning to realize that this was no ordinary planet. Earth was not a world that would kneel in the face of destruction. As the battle raged on, Earth's forces found themselves with an unexpected advantage. The Empire's commanders, once confident in their victory, were now faced with problems they hadn't anticipated. Their technology, though advanced, was not infallible. Earth's electromagnetic pulse had disrupted their systems, and now the Empire's once unbreakable fleet was struggling to maintain control. In the skies, Earth's pilots were flying faster, more skillfully than ever before. Their new weapons systems, though still primitive compared to the Empire's, were having an impact. The Empire's ships, which had once seemed invulnerable, were now being struck from all directions. The drones that Earth had once relied on for simple reconnaissance were now working together in a coordinated attack, confusing the Empire's fleet and forcing them to split their forces. The tide of the battle was turning, but the Empire wasn't ready to give up yet. They had fought wars across the galaxy, and they had never faced a people quite like the humans of Earth. But they had their pride, and they were not going to let a small planet stand in their way. The Empire began to deploy their most powerful weapon, a massive flagship that had been kept in reserve. This ship, the Imperium, was the pride of the Empire's fleet, equipped with the most advanced weaponry in existence. Its weapons could destroy entire cities with a single blast, and it was protected by a shield so strong that nothing Earth had could penetrate it. The Empire's leaders believed that the Imperium would be the key to crushing Earth's resistance once and for all. As the Imperium approached, its sheer size was enough to strike fear into the hearts of Earth's fighters. It was a behemoth, far larger than any of the ships that had previously attacked Earth. Its weapons glowed with power, and its shields radiated an almost palpable sense of invincibility. For a moment, it seemed as though the battle was lost, but Earth's people had learned to fight back, no matter the odds. At the heart of Earth's command center, leaders and military strategists huddled around their screens. They had seen the Imperium approach, and they knew that this was their greatest challenge yet. But there was one thing that gave them hope. Earth had something the Empire did not: a united people. It wasn't just the military that was fighting now. It was every man, woman, and child on Earth who had picked up the mantle of resistance. "We've come too far to back down now," said General Maria Delgado, one of the leaders of Earth's defense. Her voice was calm, but filled with determination. "This is our planet. We're not going to let them take it from us." The world's military forces, though battered, were still ready to fight. They had learned from their previous battles and had a plan. Earth's fighter jets would launch a coordinated attack, targeting the weak points in the Imperium's shield. It was a long shot, but it was the only chance they had. As the Imperium loomed closer, Earth's forces moved into position. The fighters took off from their bases, each one carrying the weight of humanity's hopes. The pilots knew that this would be their most dangerous mission, but they also knew that they could not afford to fail. The battle began with a roar. Earth's fighters swarmed the Imperium, dodging blasts from its weapons as they tried to find a way through its shields. The Imperium retaliated with powerful beams of energy, striking down several of Earth's fighters. But the pilots pressed on, firing their weapons at the weak points they had identified in the Imperium's shields. For hours, the battle raged in the skies. The Imperium fought back with all its might, but Earth's forces were relentless. The pilots worked together, covering each other's backs, taking advantage of every opening they could find. Slowly, but surely, the Imperium's shields began to falter. It was a long and difficult struggle, but the tide was beginning to turn. Back on the ground, Earth's resistance fighters were not idle. They had set up makeshift launch pads, firing rockets and missiles at the Imperium from every direction. Though the weapons were small in comparison to the Imperium's firepower, they were able to cause enough damage to slow it down. The Empire had underestimated the ingenuity of Earth's people. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, Earth's fighters made their move. A coordinated strike from all sides hit the Imperium's weak spot, a critical point in its energy core. The Imperium shuddered, and for the first time, it seemed as though the Empire's invincible flagship was not invincible after all. The Empire's commanders watched in horror as their prized flagship began to break apart. The ship's massive engines faltered, and it began to fall from the sky. The battle was far from over, but the Imperium had been defeated. It was a turning point, the moment when Earth's resistance had proven that no matter how powerful the Empire seemed, humanity would not be easily defeated. As the Imperium plummeted toward the surface, a cheer went up from Earth's forces. They had done it. They had struck a blow to the heart of the Empire. The fall of the Imperium was a victory that Earth had never thought possible. The massive flagship, which had once seemed like the key to the Empire's success, was now in ruins. But while this was a moment of triumph, it was far from the end of the war. The Empire was a vast force, and they were not about to retreat simply because of one loss. The true test was still ahead. With the destruction of the Imperium, Earth's forces had gained a significant advantage, but the battle was not over. The Empire was still sending wave after wave of ships, their determination unyielding. The leaders of Earth knew that their victory, though sweet, had only delayed the inevitable final confrontation. The Empire would not rest until they had taken Earth. In the days following the fall of the Imperium, Earth's forces worked tirelessly to rebuild their defenses. The atmosphere was filled with a mixture of hope and urgency. The people had proven they could fight, but now they had to prepare for the Empire's final assault. There was no time to waste. In a secret command center hidden deep beneath the Earth's surface, Earth's military leaders gathered to plan their next steps. General Maria Delgado stood at the head of the table, her face calm but determined. She knew that this would be the hardest fight of all. "We've proven that they're not invincible," she said, addressing the room. "But this isn't over. The Empire will come back stronger. We have to be ready." The room fell silent. Earth's leaders knew that this final battle would decide the fate of their world. There would be no second chances. The Empire, still reeling from the loss of the Imperium, had regrouped and were now preparing their most powerful attack yet. They had built new warships, even larger and more advanced than the ones before. The final fleet was massive, the largest Earth had ever seen. It was clear that the Empire was putting everything they had left into this assault. They would stop at nothing to claim Earth. Days passed as Earth's forces prepared for the inevitable battle. The air was thick with tension. The people of Earth, no longer hiding in fear, had come together to face the threat head-on. The world's armies were united, ready to defend their home, no matter the cost. They knew they were fighting for more than just survival. They were fighting for their future, for their children, for the right to live on their own planet. Then the day arrived. The Empire's final fleet appeared in the sky, its ships blocking out the sun as they descended toward Earth. It was a sight that sent chills through the hearts of even the most seasoned soldiers. The Empire's presence was overwhelming, but Earth's forces stood tall. They would not be intimidated. Not now. General Delgado stood on the command platform, looking out at the vast fleet in the distance. She could feel the weight of history on her shoulders. The fate of Earth was in her hands, and she could not afford to fail. She gave the order, and the battle began. The skies erupted in a dazzling display of light and sound as Earth's fighters launched into the air. The sound of their engines was like a roar of defiance against the Empire. The drones, now more advanced than ever, swarmed the sky, darting between the Empire's ships with incredible speed. Earth's defenses were stronger now, and the Empire was feeling the pressure. The battle was fierce. Earth's fighters dodged blasts from the Empire's warships, striking with precision and agility. Every shot, every move, was calculated. The Empire's fleet fired back with fury, but Earth's forces were relentless. They had nothing to lose, and that made them fierce. General Delgado watched from the command center as the battle unfolded. She could see the strain on her forces, but she also saw the courage. The Empire's ships were massive, but Earth's people were resilient. They had fought and bled for this moment. They would not back down. As the battle raged on, Earth's forces launched their final plan. They had built a special weapon, one that would put an end to the Empire's reign once and for all. A missile, equipped with technology developed from the wreckage of the Imperium, was ready. It had the power to destroy the heart of the Empire's fleet, to bring their power to an end. The missile was fired with precision, cutting through the sky like a shooting star. The Empire's ships tried to intercept, but it was too late. The missile struck its target, a massive warship at the center of the fleet. In an instant, the ship exploded in a burst of light, sending shockwaves through the surrounding ships. The Empire's fleet was thrown into chaos. With their flagship destroyed and their remaining ships in disarray, the Empire's forces began to retreat. The battle was won. As the dust settled, Earth's forces stood victorious. The skies, once filled with the darkness of war, were now clear. The Empire, humbled and broken, had been defeated. Earth had shown them that no matter how powerful they were, they could not break the will of a united humanity. The people of Earth erupted in celebration, but the victory was bittersweet. The cost had been great, but in the end, they had proven something to the galaxy. Earth would never kneel. General Delgado stood tall, looking at the sky. She had led them through the hardest battle of their lives. And now, Earth was free. The war was over. The Empire's worlds were no more. And Earth, against all odds, had won.